I wanted to ask you guys something from a couple of the different press conferences that there were yesterday when people start taking inventory and doing the autopsy on their NFL seasons. Put the Buffalo press conference off to the side for a second. John Lynch of the 49ers. It's still strange to me to see John Lynch running the 49ers. I don't think a lot of people listening to this know that John Lynch threw the first pitch in Florida Marlins history. He was the single-A pitcher who threw the very first pitch in organizational history, and now he runs the 49ers. Not only does he say that they're going to look into whether or not their players get injured more than any other team in the league because they practice next to a power plant. So now you've got a GM of the league, even though scientists have said, look, there's not a link between these things. Basically, what you've got is a GM in the league saying, I fear that my players are contaminated with radioactivity. That's not a normal thing that you get in a post-season press
Again, not
conference.
Radioactivity, EMF frequencies, but that's different.
And not a power plant. I misspoke. It's an electrical substation.
Yeah.
Whatever. No one knows what to call those things.
Funnier my way to have them contaminated by radioactivity. But when you talk about radioactivity in their locker room, they did also have that with the Aiyuk situation. And this is the part that I wanted to get to with you guys, because the quote from Shanahan was kind of shocking, given that you had Aiyuk. He had $27 million in guarantees in a contract that they were kind of skittish about giving to him, but they gave him the contract. And then Aiyuk stopped showing up when he was injured. And this is the quote from Shanahan. Quote, I'd say it officially stopped for me when the last time I tried to get a hold of him and couldn't, and then tried a couple more times and still couldn't. And then that matched everyone else that was trying to get a hold of him to come in. And eventually there's not much of an explanation because it's really hard for us and anyone else to understand. And that's why it's something I've never seen in 22 years of coaching. It's unfortunate and it's confusing because it's confusing for all of us, but it eventually becomes, it is what it is. A guy's under contract. The money's guaranteed. They never take away your guarantees. They're guaranteed. They're taking away his guarantees because he just stopped showing up. How do you stop showing up if it risks millions of dollars when you don't actually have to go in and do the work? You just have to get perfect attendance. Like, you don't even have to get perfect attendance. You just have to return the calls of the people in charge.
You just have to not violate the terms of your contract.
Just show up.
Yeah.
Just literally show up.
Yeah.
You could do whatever you want. You could play
Drive
whatever.
to the facility and just sit there. But have you guys ever heard of such a thing? And incidentally, I can't help but do this. It's not fair. I know we do this doctor diagnosis when we're not doctors. But anytime I'm confronted in that sport with something that doesn't make sense to me, like I was talking about this a lot on the end of Antonio Brown's career when he plays for 3 teams in whatever it is, 6 months, and you're like, what's happening there? That's one of the best receivers you've ever seen. What's the craziness of this behavior where I don't see any precedent for it? And it can be addicted to social media, but anytime something this strange happens that I can't explain, I wonder, fairly or unfairly, hey, what's going on with this person's head? Like, what did football help do to this person's head?
A power plant, dude.
Substation.
Have we not heard at all from Brandon Aiyuk's agent? Like, has the agent fired him? Normally, when something similar to this is going on, we will hear from the agent.
You guys remember the summer of Aiyuk? Like, we talked about this guy nonstop for 2 months, and he's fallen off the face of the earth.
Is it something that's unfair for me to do, to wonder whenever I see erratic football behavior from a player that I simply can't explain, that I have never seen, that Kyle Shanahan is telling you? I haven't seen this in 22 years of coaching where someone doesn't show up for his guarantees when all he's got to do is show up for work. He doesn't have to exercise. He doesn't have to rehab. He just has to show up at the facility.
What's he mad about?
I don't know because he's not. His family members have spoken. Look, he was wounded that they didn't throw more to him at the end of last season. He was wounded that he's not their number one receiver as a priority, even though it doesn't matter who plays for that team. That team wins 11, 12 games, even if everybody is injured. I don't think it's a logic leap that's fair for me to make, but I can't help but keep making it when confronted with behavior I've never seen before. And I only do it in that sport. I don't do it in hockey where there are plenty of collisions and concussions. I don't do it with any other sport. It's only that sport where I'm like, oh, do we not yet know where it regards brain chemistry, how damaging some of this is? Because the Antonio Brown behavior started immediately after Vontaze Burfict hit him. Like, all of that behavior started when he was incapacitated on the field by a dirty hit by Vontaze Burfict, who was trying to make that hit, who was trying to purposely injure him, and not only did, evidently also derailed Antonio Brown's entire life.
But you have like a point. You have a genesis of where the thing started with Antonio Brown. You look at Brandon Aiyuk, it's like he tore his, a bunch of ligaments in his knee, but like that has nothing really to do with his head, right? So it's like, is it the rehab and how grueling it is to come back? Maybe that kind of.
Well, that's why Dan's asking whether or not it's even fair to ask that question.
Can you ever text Pablo and tell him what to do? Can you? I need a deep dive on this one. I'm just talking about the power plant.
I looked into it. I spoke to Peter Cohen.
Oh, I would be totally here for Tony finds out.
You can go find it on my YouTube channel at 10 Day Tony.
I don't tell Pablo anything about what to do. No, I don't.
Look at this power plant. I mean,
it burns down the collagen in your bones is what the conversation is.
But hasn't that substation been there since the 80s? Like, haven't they won?
Yeah, but they haven't been there since the 80s.
Okay, but they've had multiple teams practicing next to it without this kind of injury.
Agreed.
Injuries. They've been hurt for like 8 years, Dano.
Agreed, but from the 80s to now, that substation has increased like a millionfold of output because, back in the day we weren't really using that stuff, and now
about that
everything
wattage
is being used.
It's my gimmick.
I remember having the argument with Stugotz when Bill Parcells was running the Dolphins and they went 11-5 with Pennington getting second in the MVP voting, and they had an injury-free practically year. And Stugotz is saying, yeah, Parcells can do that. I'm like, Kenny, you think Parcells can come in and make sure his guys don't get injured?
Nobody turns an ankle.
So Sirianni, the last few years before this recent spate, the Eagles were the healthiest team in the league. What are they doing? They're doing something to keep their players healthy. I remember Chip Kelly, when they hired him, he had protein shakes and, he was measuring their hearts with, Apple Watches, and he was ahead of the game. You guys believe that there's a way to either prevent injuries in football with your training staff being appreciably better than someone else's training staff?
How much would that guy get paid who can keep your team from getting hurt all year?
Have you considered God?
Well, they are in that godless city of San Francisco.
Finally, somebody said it, baby.